Welcome to the Halliwell Manor. I'm Max.
And I'm Tina.
And we are here to discuss Season 6, Episode 18 of Charmed.
Spin City.
Dated even at the time.
It's weird how some of these titles hurt me so much on such a visceral level. I'm like, why am I so much more angry at this title than at others? I couldn't tell you, but, I am.
For those of you who are unaware, Spin City was a TV show about Michael J. Fox as the PR manager for a city government or something.
Yeah, something like that. Richard Kind was in it and Barry Bostwick.
Ooh, that's kind of a stacked cast. Was it any good? I feel like it was the sort of show I only saw silently in dentists' waiting rooms.
Yeah, same here. Even though it was on, in my lifetime. Unlike, I'm sure, a lot of people who listen to this.
Yeah, it ended quite some time ago. I kind of file it under the, Dharma and Greg. I would probably enjoy this enough while watching it, kind of TV. I used to have Mad About You there, but I tried rewatching a few years ago, and oh my god, it is the most boring show ever.
Okay, I feel like I watched a lot of episodes of Mad About You, and I don't remember anything about any of them.
Nothing ever happens in that show. I watched, 3 different episodes where the plot was Jamie and Paul Reiser's character, whose name I can't remember, plan to leave the apartment, but then don't.
Okay, the thing is, I feel like that could actually be a really interesting episode. Like that episode of Frasier I showed you where the entire episode is just 20 minutes real time of Frasier and Niles trying and failing to plan a dinner party.
Yeah, okay, yes, I could see how but you can't use that premise 3 times. And I don't think I was watching past season 1, so it was 3 times in one season. I could be misremembering. You know what I've been seeing a lot of GIFs of? Because one specific person I follow on Tumblr has gotten into it.
What's that?
Stuff from My Two Dads.
Oh, man, My Two Dads.
Are you familiar with My Two Dads?
Of course.
Okay, so it's just the odd couple, but they're raising a kid together.
It's more like 3 men and a baby, but with a teenager, and only 2 men.
I never saw 3 Men and a Baby, but isn't
you never saw 3 Men and a Baby?
No. No, I've never seen it. But
what came on cable when you were homesick from school?
God, I remember watching a lot of The Nanny when I was homesick at school.
Okay.
From school. And ironically, Mad About You. But no, because isn't Paul Reiser's character in that show he's the snobby, effeminate, clean one, and
yeah,
that guy who's not famous at all is the rough and tumble bad boy guy. Yeah,
Greg Evigan.
Yeah. Oh, good memory. Or
maybe or I have it pulled up on my phone.
Yes, we all carry tiny computers that tell us everything all the time. But it is basically a.
There's also some Mamma Mia in there because the idea is that her mom had sex with both of them, so it could be either of them could be her dad.
Wait, is that the plot of 3 Men and a Baby?
No, the plot of 3 Men and a Baby, it's Tom Selleck's kid. Wait, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, but when the baby is left on their doorstep, the note gets mishandled, so they don't know who left the baby on their doorstep, so theoretically it could be any of them, and then by the end of the movie we find out whose baby it actually is. Whereas in My Two Dads, they decide that because her mom died and was in the provision of her will where she assigned guardianship, she was like, one of these 2 guys is her dad, so I don't know, I'm dead, you guys figure it out. And in the end of the pilot, they decide that they both love her and they don't want to know, so they never find out who her dad is. I mean, they might at some point later in the show, but...
Okay, so, yeah,
So it's kind of got a Mamma Mia thing going.
Yes. But I'm saying you could file it as an odd couple show.
Yes.
How to Be a Gentleman, which I looked up because I was so sure that that guy from Entourage, who wasn't the main guy from Entourage, Matt Dillon's younger brother, Kevin Dillon. I was so sure Kevin Dillon was in The Odd Couple. and I ended up looking up his IMDb because when I looked up Odd Couple, he wasn't. Matthew Perry and Thomas Lennon were in one.
I did know that.
But I looked it up, and it was a completely different show called How to Be a Gentleman, but it just had the same premise as The Odd Couple.
Well, I mean, wacky mismatched roommates isn't...
Yeah, and Slobs versus Snobs is like a standard thing. It's just weird that The Odd Couple is its own very specific subgenre of TV show.
Yeah, I guess so.
And I mean, the joke's always that they're gay. Because it's sitcoms, the joke's always that someone's gay.
See, that's interesting that you said that the joke is that they're gay. Because I feel more like, not the joke is that they're gay, but somebody wanted to write a gay story before a time when they were allowed to.
Yeah, like, again, some of the GIFs that they've been posting from My Two Dads, there's a thing where Paul Rudd's mom, like, starts interfering, and Paul Rudd has this speech about... Paul Reiser has this speech about how, like, he's like, the only reason you're doing this is because you don't think we're a real family, just because we're not a traditional family. And I'm like, oh, yeah, someone was putting something in this.
Yep.
But, I mean, that's also kind of inherent to the premise. To quote JFK from Clone High, it's like that show, My Two Dads, but more gay.
But, like, why would that be the premise unless you wanted to write about gay dads raising a teenage daughter, and you were like, oh... I want to write about gay dads raising a teenage daughter, but it's 1987. How could I do that?
Okay, we were like 7 minutes into recording, and we haven't talked about this episode one.
So what you're saying is it's pretty good for us.
Yep. God. This is the episode where Chris becomes a spider. This is fantastic. Chris is Spider-Man in this. And contemporary, right? I mean, the Spider-Man movie had just come out-ish.
Oh.
Like...
Yeah.
It was in the zeitgeist, at least.
Sure. Okay, I learned from Wikipedia that Spin City was originally going to be called Spin, but they couldn't get the rights from Spin Magazine.
That makes sense. I could see people being confused. So, the episode opens with Chris doing a tarot reading because even he knows, like, he's like, look, I could ask Phoebe about the future, or I could be more accurate and just do a tarot spread.
Much like when... Paige was trying to figure out what was going on with Cole. And we learned that she's, like, really good at tarot. Way better than Phoebe is at having a premonition.
I mean, God, when was the last time we saw Phoebe have one, even? So, Chris is still living at the club. Huh. So, he talks to a guy we've definitely seen before. Someone who works at the club. And he tells Chris that Piper's at the hospital getting a checkup for the baby.
Okay, you can tell this guy is trying to figure out what the deal is here. Okay, so first of all, you know how Friends has the 24-hour party people? Where it's like, who are all these people coming to these parties and when we never see them hang out with anyone else?
Yeah.
This is like... Who is this guy who works at P3 who's we never ever see? But at least we know P3 must have employees, I guess.
Okay, he's on good enough terms with Chris that he knows that Chris is friends with Piper.
Well, he's clearly trying to, like, figure out what's going on. He's like, so this is the guy that Piper's fucking, right? Because he just showed up one day and now he lives in the back room and he definitely doesn't work here.
Well, all of his questions, it seems kind of like he's fishing for information on Piper, like maybe he's interested in her, except that's not really how he plays it.
Oh, no, see, I definitely read that as him trying to get the gossip because he definitely thinks that Chris is the reason that Leo's not around anymore.
Well, yeah, he says, so
Which
what?
Which he is.
Yeah.
The reason that Leo's not around anymore.
Yes, that is accurate. But he's like, so Leo... is Piper's ex-husband. They broke up a while ago. He skipped town, came back, got her pregnant, and skipped town again. And Chris is like, yes, that is loosely what happened. The guy's like, wow, Leo sure sounds like a massive douchebag. And Chris is like, yes.
Yes, he is.
So the card Chris has pulled for his very poorly set up tarot spread is,
Judgment.
Judgment.
We listen and we do not judge.
I mean, maybe on a different podcast. We're pretty judgmental here.
It's a TikTok trend right now.
Well, TikTok can still trend.
Oh.
Dating this episode immediately, no matter how that goes. So, Paige has brought Piper to the, doctor for her.
And Piper has frozen the entire hallway.
And because a woman was about to touch her stomach.
Which, you know what? Fair.
Yeah. Irritating thing. But is Piper not concerned at all about... I guess she's not at this point. Because Paige is like, if you're not standing in the same position when you unfreeze her, that's going to be like a hint to her that maybe magic's real. And...
Honestly, I'm on Piper's side here, which is not something I will say often, but I am here. Like, people are really in their own heads, they're in their own they're in their own universe created inside their mind. If there's a glitch in the Matrix, they'll just write it off. They'll be, and in fact, even here, Paige runs up and kind of grabs her when the woman reaches for a belly that's not there because she was trying to touch Piper's belly.
She reached hard for that belly.
I know. Well, so Paige reaches out and grabs her and is like, oh, looks like you had a little vertigo. But my argument is Paige didn't even need to do that. She would have just stumbled and been like, oh, I had a little bit of vertigo. Because that's what we do as humans. We explain away all of these weird glitches in the simulation. That's a joke. I don't really believe in simulation theory. Probably.
Yeah, it seems unlikely.
I mean, I've been programmed not to believe in it.
So, Paige goes into the elevator with Piper, who's wearing this bizarre button skirt.
This was actually really popular at the time.
Really?
Yeah.
And like a mint green shirt and a kind of taupe long overcoat.
The color story that her outfit is telling is gross. These are not good colors right now, but that style of skirt was really popular.
It's a look that says to me, someone went to a thrift store thinking earthy tones, and this is what they came out with.
Well, the problem is that the top is mint. That's not an earth tone. If it was more green, the whole outfit would pull together better, honestly, if it was a darker green.
Oh no, that's what I mean by went to a thrift store. They had a very specific idea of what to buy, but they weren't willing to go to more than one location. But yeah, as Paige enters the elevator, she's like, no wonder Chris grows up to be such a neurotic little freak. Which, Jesus, Paige.
Don't hold back.
Yeah.
For both of them. Like, Paige wants to get Piper excited that she got like a clean bill of health from the doctor. And Piper's like, yeah, I understand basic time travel. As long as Chris is walking around and fine, the baby is fine.
Yeah. So Chris orbs into the elevator, and he's like, so how'd it go with the doctor? And I'm sorry, I love this bit so much. Piper's like, you'll be happy to know you're a boy. And Chris kind of gives her this like tired half smirk. It's very cute.
She holds up the sonogram.
Yeah. And then Paige makes fun of his penis. Because she's like, I don't know. I can't see his penis. And Chris is like, please stop looking at my penis. I'm aware of what you're doing, but it's weird. It's a weird thing to do, Paige. What's up with you this episode, Paige? So as they walk into the parking garage, this is such a bad idea. Never walk into a parking garage in Charmed. Nothing good has ever happened in a parking garage in Charmed.
I mean, okay, yeah, but I feel like by those rules, there's very little you can do in Charmed.
So, a spider demon lady jumps...
A sexy spider demon lady.
Yeah, a very boobtastic spider demon lady jumps off of the ceiling, because spider. She tries to attack. Chris shoves his pregnant mother out of the way, which... Nice one, I guess.
Well, I mean, he's also in there, so...
Yeah. But he gets scratched by the spider lady. Piper scares her off with explosions. She turns into a spider and spiders off. And, yeah, Chris has been spider infected by the spider.
And there's an ominous shot that zooms in on Piper's belly. so that we all realize how scared everyone is by the fact that, unlike Wyatt, who was just better than Chris in every way, this baby is not creating a force field to protect himself and Piper from harm.
Yeah. Way to be a really, really lazy fetus, Chris. They're doing something weird with the opening, like, establishing shots of San Francisco. They keep, like, slowing down and then, like, reversing them a little and then playing them straight again. It's very odd.
Mm-hmm.
This song goes on for, like, half past forever. I guess the episode was running short.
Yeah, right? We spend a long time on the opening credits.
Yeah, we see every inch of San Francisco.
So, back at the Manor, when we come back from credits, they're checking the Book of Shadows, and Paige is like, well, the book says it's a spider demon, so good job, Paige. A+ work there. This is why you become a teacher.
Piper is tending to Chris's wound, and Chris is like, you seemed really freaked out back there. More freaked out than a little spider demon should cause. And she's like, I wasn't freaked out. I was just surprised there wasn't a force field. And Chris is like, excuse me?
Way to nurse that sibling rivalry that, caused this whole thing.
I like how he first immediately blames Piper for it. Because he's like, wait, you had a force field with Wyatt and not with me? And Piper's like, I didn't have the force field. He had the force field. While I was pregnant with him, he mystically protected me from the inside. And Chris is like, wait. He had his powers from the womb?
Piper's like, now you know why he's my favorite. Now when you go back, maybe you'll be a little less defensive about being second best.
Poor Chris.
I know, right?
It gets way worse after he's born. Like, they do not care about that second baby.
Mm-mm. I saw a post on Reddit today, and it's a thing we've talked about. How it would have made so much more sense, would have been so much more satisfying if he had been Phoebe and Cole's child.
Yeah.
And it's true, because, like you said, once he's born, they have nothing to do with him. Anyway.
So, Paige has found the spider demon. She's a spider demon. Her whole thing is that she finds the most powerful magical person in all the land, binds them in her spider webbing, and then feeds off of their mystical energy for thousands of years. And Paige is like, so congratulations on being the most powerful magical person around, Piper. Chris is like, I kind of get credit for that too. And Piper's like, shut up, Chris.
Right, because Piper has the magical power of a full-grown woman and a little baby.
Oh my god. Shouldn't Wyatt be the most magically powerful?
Well, he wasn't in the building.
So Paige is like,
I don't know how big her hunting ground is. I think her hunting ground is just the parking garage.
Oh my god. What kind of limit? Well, maybe not in San Francisco.
Right?
So there is a vanquishing potion. Piper's like, okay, look, easy peasy pudding in pie. Chris, you focus on not turning into a spider because you got, scratched by the spider demon. So obviously you're going to turn into a spider. But luckily, usually when we blow up the main demon, this sort of thing tends to reverse itself. So
Paige also gives Chris a hard time about his inferiority complex, and she says, don't they have therapists in the future? And it's like, no, Paige, it's a dystopic future ruled over by an evil wizard named Wyatt. What do you mean, don't you have therapists?
What an awful question.
She is being really mean to her family this episode.
She really is. I have no idea why this was the choice they made for Paige, but
yeah.
I love how Chris kind of no-sells Paige's weird jab at him. He's like, look, whatever. We need Phoebe. Where's Phoebe? And Piper's like, oh, she's like porking every dude in town because she had a vision about having a baby or something. So she's trying to find... She's using her powers to try to find the right sperm.
Okay, no, it's so much worse than that. Because if she was just boning her way through San Francisco, I would be like, more power to you, right? But no, she's doing these weird speed dates where she goes, finds a guy, tries to have a premonition, doesn't have a premonition, moves on to the next guy. Like,
Oh my god.
and I mean, the whole point of premonitions is that it's what's going to happen. She can just relax and let it happen because she's trying to, because remember, I'm reminding them, I know you know, she had the premonition of herself with the baby, so she's like, okay, wait.
It was part of a vision quest.
Right, so she's like, okay, doing the math here, that means I need to, like, meet the guy who's gonna knock me up right now. And that's just not how any of this works.
Also, you were pregnant. When you were pregnant, Chris was like 5 or 6 years old. So you've got a fair amount of time.
Well, she's doing the math, right? Okay. A pregnancy takes, 9 months, right? A pregnancy takes 9 months. Actually a little more.
40 weeks.
Right. She wants to be married to the guy for like a year before she actually gets pregnant. And she wants to know a guy for like a year before they get married. So, doing the math, she's got to meet him pretty soon.
I mean, I feel like she still has like 2 years of flex time in there.
Yeah. But I still think what she's doing is just utterly ridiculous. I just let it happen. This is like the flip side of the Tale as Old as Time, where you get a prophecy you don't like, and in trying to avoid it, you fulfill it.
Yeah. She got a prophecy she liked, and now she's trying too hard to make it happen. Phoebe is too thirsty.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
We just watched the Christmas episode of Ghosts, and the American version, and the American version has been so good this season.
Yeah, it's bringing it.
Yeah, like it started out pretty weak. Like I restarted just to see, but like season 3, season 4, like they really hit their stride. It gets so good, and there are all these kind of layered jokes where there's a bunch of stuff that's funny if you haven't watched the show before, but then there's like these very subtle callback stuff.
Listen, if we had started our podcast that we're eventually going to do, welcome to, what were we going to call it?
The other side of the Atlantic.
The other side of the pond?
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, our show where we talk about TV shows being adapted in America or American shows being adapted out into other places. If we had done that show 2 years ago when we first talked about it, in our Ghosts UK versus Ghosts CBS episode, and I'm calling it that because that's how they hashtag it. They call the American one hashtag Ghosts CBS and the British one hashtag Ghosts UK. Anyway, if we had done it a couple of years ago, I'd be like, yeah, the UK one is better. But now I'm like, no, firmly the American one is better.
Yeah.
Just discounting the first season of the American one, which really is kind of weak.
It's so bad. Well, it does the thing The Office did where it's just like worse versions of the British episodes.
But because it's historical ghosts, there's not a one-to-one correlation of the characters. So it's even worse because it's not character-driven at all. It's just very, very flimsy.
Also, the American ghosts have character arcs and they evolve and stuff because when you have a set number of episodes and multiple seasons, you feel the need to give characters character development.
Okay, we are like so off track here, but I can't help it.
Okay.
In the TV show episodes, which is incredibly hard to Google, because it's called Episodes.
Yes.
But it's a television show about 2 British TV creators coming over to America to remake their show in America. And then Matt LeBlanc, playing a fictionalized version of himself, is the main character in the Americanized version.
The only good non-Friends thing he ever did.
I will have to review because I'm not 100% sure that's true. But yeah, he's really good at Episodes. And one of the things that happens is there's a character in the British version who is a lesbian. And Matt LeBlanc argues that they need to make her straight in the American version specifically so that she and Matt's character can have a, like, will they, won't they? And the British creators initially write him off, and then he's like, no, listen. In England, you did 6 episodes. Here you're going to do a season of 20. You need to be able to have plots that go places. You need to have, like, the will they, won't they that you can stretch out.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, wait, Matt LeBlanc actually knows what he's talking about.
So, in the Boobtastic Spider Lady's spider lair...
Oh my god, we were, like, so...
we were so far off.
Wait, I'm so sorry. Earlier today, Max asked me if we have any, like, taglines in our shows.
Yes.
I think our tagline is, oh my god, we are so...
far off topic, yes. We do tend to
There's
wander.
so much episode left. Anyway.
So, in her spider lair, the spider lady is monologuing to her last victim, a wizard.
Yep.
So, I guess Armin Shimmerman wasn't the last wizard, although she's
Well, because she captured him and webbed him before... Yeah.
Before Armin Shimmerman...
He counted as dead as soon as she caught him and webbed him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she's been drinking his magic for centuries and centuries, and he's all like, hey, you came back without any more magic, so I guess you're gonna finish eating me and then die.
She's like, no, I found a charmed one, and he's like, oh, you're gonna die. Like, the charmed ones are, like, a big deal.
He's like, sorry, girl, I have been webbed in this lair for centuries, and even I know that you cannot take on the charmed ones.
She's like, I infected their white lighter, so, you know, soon he'll be my thrall or whatever. I'm gonna eat you. And,
she's like,
oh my god, my boobs and nails got bigger after I ate that wizard.
There is, like, a real vampira aesthetic to this character.
I do appreciate when she's draining the essence from this guy. It's just her holding her hands over him, like reverse healing, lights being sucked into her.
Oh, yeah.
But he screams, and then he jump cuts into being a skeleton, and the skeleton has its mouth open. I'm like, oh, that's nice. That's good little continuity. Speaking of continuity, back at the Manor, Paige reminds us about her stupid temp job plot. Which, when was the last time she went on one of her stupid little temp job things?
She's like, I need to go to my temp job. It's where I find B stories. And they're like, shut up, Paige. I'm pregnant, and Chris is my son from the future. We don't need your B stories right now. If we need a B story, we'll check in on Phoebe's dating mishaps.
Yeah. Paige is like, look, why don't you just call Leo to heal Chris? Because, like, you don't want him to become infected by spider poison or whatever. And Chris is like, my dad's never around, Paige. I don't know if you knew this, but it's the entire basis for my personality. My dad's never around. And Piper's like, Leo doesn't even know I'm pregnant, which I think that's just bad eldering on Leo's part, right?
Seriously!
Meanwhile, Chris is sticking to stuff.
Yep.
I really like Drew Fuller's little eye acting. He, like, looks nervously in multiple directions. It's cute.
So, at Not Quake...
It's literally just... It's the Quake sign, but it's had...
Café Le Bleu.
Very poorly photoshopped over Quake.
I like to believe that it is the restaurant where Quake was. It's just new management has taken it over.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, they only had one head chef, the fake French guy, and then Piper was basically running the entire restaurant for no reason.
Yeah. Gordon Ramsay showed up and just put them out of business. He was like, what the fuck are you doing?
So, Phoebe has shown up to a date here, and...
Oh
my god, this outfit.
What is happening?
I mean, it looks like it would come in handy if she were trying to scare away predators.
It's like she's trying to do, like, a boho thing, and just missed the mark. Oh, you know what it's like? It's like in the pilot episode of Ugly Betty, when she hears the other girls talking about how ponchos are in, and they mean the, like, Coachella boho aesthetic, and she comes to the first day of work in, like, a giant tourist...
Rain poncho.
Yeah.
Okay, so Phoebe is wearing what appears to be a potato sack. She's sewed tinfoil onto the sleeves of.
It's a mohair knit poncho, but it's very ugly.
All these dudes are looking at her as she hurries in. I think it's supposed to be because she's hot. She also has a knit skull cap
hat
and a straw purse. Oh my god, she looks insane.
She sits down and her date is like, Phoebe, you look amazing.
Liar. Phoebe immediately jumps in with, so, you want to have babies. How fertile are you? Have you had your sperm tested for fertility? Because I need it to make babies. And he's like, you are so interesting.
Oh, but then she like reaches over and doesn't get a premonition and is like, okay, time to go.
Date over.
I mean, this is kind of like the Black Mirror episode. Shoot the DJ.
So Chris interrupts her leaving this guy in the middle of the date, and he's very clearly not doing well. He's like hugging himself, and he's sweaty, and he's wearing a hoodie, and he's like, a demon attacked Piper. We need to go. And then he eats a fly out of midair, and Phoebe's date's like,
dodged a bullet.
yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, Charmed, we get it. We all saw the Dracula episode of Buffy too. Not
You
that,
gotta have your bug eaters.
although it does feel mean to compare Chris to Xander, the worst human being ever.
Chris has killed more people than Xander.
Yeah, but he's not a douchebag. I mean, okay. Oh, I know I just said, Paige, we don't need your plots, and
boy,
she's
does
ready
this
to prove me
you
right.
Yeah, my
Sorry.
God.
Okay, so this guy approaches her.
And he's a leprechaun, but he's tall.
Except he's clearly not. He's clearly...
A little person they have standing on a chair.
It's so weird. It's like they saw the way that they did the perspective shooting on Lord of the Rings and are like, oh, we'll just do that. And then they had no idea how to do that.
Why didn't you just have a different actor playing him when he's not a leprechaun?
Which, and you could do that because later on in the episode, a bunch of magical creatures are going to show up having had their, like, bodies screwed up because of the Wicked Witch of the West or something.
Oh my god, it's the dumbest thing Charmed has ever done.
It really is. And that's a high bar to clear. But yeah, they're all played by various actors who are not, yeah. Anyway, he's like, help me, Paige. I know you helped other leprechauns before. Help me be a leprechaun again, because look how tall I am now. I can't take it anymore.
Remember Seamus? Remember how you got Seamus killed? You think maybe you might owe us a little something because of that? So, she does a stupid little rhyme, and it works. It, re-leprechaunizes the leprechaun. And, oh my stars and garters, he's got his ability to give luck back.
Yep, he's like, here's a shillelagh to show my appreciation. And then he's like,
dude, you need that to teleport.
Well, and then he's like, but remember, it could be good luck or bad luck, which is not how luck worked in the last Leprechaun episode we saw.
Yeah, luck was, came in the form of these, golden coins.
Uh-huh.
And the shillelagh thing was just for teleporting.
Whatever.
Yeah, a different bartender than the one that was talking to Chris earlier comes out, and he kind of side-eyes Paige while she's holding the shillelagh, and she awkwardly puts it down. Who cares? It's not his business. He works for you.
I'm sure this is not the weirdest thing you've seen in this club. And let me be frank here. I'm sure this isn't the weirdest thing you've seen in a club that's not owned by witch sisters.
Yeah. So, back at the manor, Chris is clearly dying of spider disease, and Phoebe very loudly announces, Good thing Wyatt is with Sheila, so I guess Daryl's wife is just babysitting for them now. This is why you introduced magic school.
Anyway, Phoebe is so busy doing the math that I was telling you about before about how she needs to find the guy who's going to knock her up right now, that she doesn't notice the spider come into the room. And seriously, that spider stands there and watches them for so long. And it's a giant spider. It's like a dinner-sized plate spider. And none of the people in the room notice it.
Seriously, except for Chris, and he's literally psychically bonded to it. But he doesn't say anything because, again, he's under her spidery sway.
Her thrall.
So, they've come up with an there's a vanquishing potion for the spider lady, and there's an anti-spider possession potion.
Yeah, an anti-venom for Chris. Anyway, the spider turns into the human spider form, and he immediately shoots her web on Piper's mouth so that Piper can't talk anymore.
Yeah, she webs up Piper real good. Piper has been webbed to the wall. Paige walks into the room, throws the vanquishing potion at the spider lady, but Chris catches it and uses his kung fu spider powers to kung fu fight Paige and Phoebe.
Yup.
Paige and Phoebe beat him up, but the spider lady gets away while they're doing that.
It is a spider. It can turn into a tiny spider.
Paige, you have the ability to orb objects.
Yeah, I guess.
You could have said, spider, or you could have orbed an object at her. Or maybe Phoebe could have used her empathy.
Oh, orb the spider to you so that she can't escape.
Yeah.
Oh, well, see, I wouldn't have done that because that wouldn't have occurred to me because it's a living thing. Even though you're right, she totally could have.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to blame Paige for that. I wouldn't have thought of that. What I would have done is orb the unbroken vanquishing bottle back to me and thrown it again and actually hit it this time. That's what I would have done.
Yeah, or orb the potion at the spider. Like, we know she can orb liquids.
Yeah.
She's done it before. But, anyway. Piper's all webbed up, and when Paige tries to free her by touching the web, she gets electrocuted. But then Phoebe's like, if you tried potions or spells, and Paige is like, I've tried everything and nothing's working. Bullshit, come on.
Okay, I was actually going to compliment the fact that it kind of electrocutes her, because we do know that some spiders have little electrical powers.
Yeah.
So they decide to call on Leo.
Oh my god, it's the worst.
He's in his really annoying, I've been meditating and working on myself phase, where he's like, peace be unto you, ladies.
It just reminds me of God Cop. The joke sketch from 30 Rock about what if God was a cop, except it's a real TV show in universe. The bit where he's like, let us pray. And his partner's like, to who?
Well, I mean, elders aren't supposed to Okay.
I'm sorry.
Let's break this down.
Those messy benches interfere all the goddamn time. Especially later in the show. Like, we're one season away from them shooting lightning at anything that moves.
Okay, I was going to break it down even more than that and point out that you're supposed to... You start out as a white lighter where literally your job is to protect witches, and then you get promoted to white lighter where you're supposed to not interfere. Right, elder. You get promoted to elder where your job is to not interfere. Like, how do you even make that transition?
So... They tell Leo that Chris has been spider-possessed and he's spider-crazy, so they locked him in the basement, you know, the place over the Nexus, where all those ley lines of power are.
It's fine.
And also the Wookiee. So they're like, yeah, Chris is possessed by a spider demon, so we threw him in the basement. And Leo's like, I bet I can talk him out of being possessed. And they're like, yeah, good luck with that, buddy.
Yeah, he goes down there, and Chris throws some web at him, and apparently an elder is no match for a half-white lighter who's possessed by a spider thrall curse. Just saying, it's not a good showing for Leo.
Yeah, Leo orbs back up. He's like, well, I'm plumb out of ideas. I've tried nothing, and I'm all out of ideas.
And, Paige and Phoebe are like, hey, speaking of fathers.
Oh my god.
Seriously, Phoebe spills immediately. She's like, Paige is like, it's Piper's business to tell him. We can't just tell him. And Phoebe's like, nope, I got him. I can't hold it in anymore. The weight of other people's secrets is so heavy upon me.
Oh my god, people who do this are the worst. It is not that hard to keep secrets. It is so easy not to say stuff.
I'm really good at keeping secrets because if you tell me something, I will immediately forget it.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
you know who Phoebe is?
who?
Phoebe is the person who's like, I hate drama. Why is so much drama always happening around me?
Oh my god, she is. So Leo takes this incredibly hard and he's like, when? How? And Phoebe's like, hey, remember when you had sex with Piper 6 months ago? Then and that.
But I feel like at this point it's pretty obvious. So Leo, an elder who's been having his mind like magically expanded, should, you know, not be so surprised.
Also, you can see the future. That's an elder thing. I know it seemed like it was just that one elder thing, but Leo's made references that seem to imply that he can do it too, so it can't be that surprising. So Leo's like, look, just make up more of that anti-spider venom. I'll go to the magic school and see if I can scry for the spider lady. Why do you need to go to magic school for that?
So that he can have it out with Gideon. Yeah. Meanwhile, in the basement, Chris is hearing the telepathic call of his his spider queen.
Yeah,
like that one really weird episode of King of the Hill where Bobby becomes enthralled to the
ants. Yeah. Was that really early or something? It's such an odd... It's a really weird episode.
It is.
So the spider demon has Chris web up a wall, and then she appears in the web, and she's like, you are mine, body and soul. Look at my spider boobs and do what I spider tell you to do. Like, you need to bring the cocoon to me so I can eat your mom.
I do like the idea that the spider lady can exist wherever a spider web is. I like that.
Yeah.
I do want to point out that it's like, Chris is like, no, I can't bring you that cocoon. It's really bad if you eat that cocoon. And she's like, why? And Chris just can't, like, get out the words, well, I'm from the future and she's my mother. If you eat her, I won't be here to bring her to you.
So,
oh God.
Paige is at the club and she sees that a nymph in a hairy man's body, a
fairy in an old woman's body.
I mean, yeah, I guess old, yeah.
I mean, and that's the idea, right? They're all supposed to be like the opposite of what you expect, right? So it's an ogre who's a short guy, a fairy who's an older, yeah, I know, I said old, but she's probably like 60 at most. But, you know, an older woman, and a nymph who is a
Hairy,
hirsute man.
Dude, yeah.
Yeah, they've all been messed with by the Wicked Witch for some reason. This plot is so weird, and it goes nowhere, and it comes from nowhere.
It's so weird, like...
When you said earlier about all those shots of San Francisco, and you're like, was this episode just running short? It's like, I feel like this whole plot is in here because the episode was running short.
Yeah, Paige picks up a pen and paper, and the nymph is like, what are you going to do? Write her a strongly worded letter? And Paige is like, I'm one of the fucking charmed ones. Tell me, like, 2 things I can work into a rhyme about this lady. And we smash cut to a cartoon witch.
Yeah, a high school production of Wizard of Oz witch.
She's dressed in a Halloween store witch costume. She's got the pointy hat. And
That's made out of that plasticky material.
Yeah, and she's stirring a cauldron with a big stick, and she's going, hee hee hee, hee hee hee, hee hee hee.
Ah! A bird!
Yeah, just...
What is happening? Why is this happening?
But Paige does a little rhyme about making the Wicked Witch go away, and she just explodes.
Right, like she's not even... Like, Paige doesn't even go there. We just see her explode alone in the woods.
She's cackling to herself while stirring a cauldron in the woods, And then Paige's voice rings out and she goes, "Uh-oh," and explodes, and her hat comedically falls in the potion she was stirring.
This is Paige's work from home day. She just cast the spell from here and vanquished the witch off where in the enchanted forest.
Oh my god. So the ogre turns back into an ogre, the fairy turns back into a fairy, the nymph turns back into a nymph.
The end. Sorry, Paige.
Meanwhile, in the serious plot,
At magic school.
Leo is here to have a serious conversation with Gideon about, you have to choose, do you want to be a father or an elder? And it's like, well, obviously he wants to be a father.
Right? Like,
Paige's excuse is dumb, but I guess accurate, where she's like, Piper didn't tell you because she knew you could barely handle abandoning one son. She didn't think you could abandon two.
that's weird. But also, what about Leo has made you think that his answer to, is it the elders or your family, would be the elders? Like, have you met Leo? Anyway, Leo fills Gideon in about the fact that Chris is also his son from the future. And then after he leaves, Gideon's little henchman shows up, and Gideon's like, oh, that's why he came from the future, to interfere with all the shit I've been trying to do to Wyatt. Okay.
Yeah, it turns out I'm behind everything that's been happening with Wyatt.
I mean, we knew that already, but...
But I'm doing it for...
the greater good.
The greater good.
The greater good.
Gideon is the most morally complex villain Charmed ever did, which speaks really poorly for Charmed, because it is not... it's a really basic, would you do evil to serve the greater good?
Mm-hmm.
In this case, evil being killing Wyatt, which I feel like maybe binding his powers would be more of the thing. Like, you don't need to kill him.
Also, in trying to kill him, that's what made him evil. Whatever.
Yeah, talk about self-fulfilling prophecies.
Yeah. Anyway, Chris turns into a spider and then crawls out of the basement. And Phoebe's like, oh, I'm such an empath. I can feel Chris's feelings. And Leo's like, really? Because he's like all the way in the basement. Your powers are not that powerful.
Yeah, how could you sense someone 20 feet away from you?
But of course, it's because he's here, and then he reveals himself.
He spiders his way out of the basement. How did keeping him in the basement work at all? He can orb.
Oh my god. We don't even have time to go into that.
Yeah, so he spider teleported out of the basement. He webs up Phoebe and Paige.
He doesn't wrap them in cocoons, though. He just webs them by their hands to the wall.
Yeah, he hisses at Leo a whole bunch and then webs him to the wall, and then he orbs off with Piper.
So now everybody is stuck to the wall. You can clearly see the thing that Rose McGowan is resting on to make it look like she's hanging from the wall, but you know what? It's fine.
It's fine. They had to do a lot of stuff this episode. Leo blames himself for being a bad dad, which, yeah, But Paige is like, it wasn't Chris, Leo, it was the demon. And Leo's like, it was at least a little bit Chris.
It's like, Chris being a dick to me didn't start this morning. So Paige and Phoebe notice the shillelagh, and they're like, ooh, luck! And so Paige uses her powers to orb the shillelagh, and of course, she doesn't know if it's going to be good luck or bad luck, whatever.
She taps the shillelagh, which makes the rainbow bridge appear, and it teleports the leprechaun.
Because, like you said, that's what the shillelagh does.
Yeah. So, he repeats the thing about luck. Charmed has this weird thing with luck, where luck just basically can make anything happen, which is not how it should work. It should make things more or less probable.
Well, I mean, isn't that how kind of Scarlet Witch powers work?
Yeah, which is why they changed it to her being a reality warper. Because being like, I can alter the probability of it raining fish till it's 100 degree, 100, whatever,
I mean, I would point out that doesn't need to cast a leprechaun spell that may or may not work. He could just go get the potions out of the kitchen for them.
Yes.
Well, but whatever. He frees them.
So Chris hands the cocoon to the spider lady, and she starts like
Back in her lair.
Yeah, she starts sapping the energy, and it immediately starts killing big adult Chris.
Does no one here understand time travel? Chris, come on! Whatever. I'm sorry, I can't get over how little Chris understands time travel, even though he's the time traveler. Oh.
So, I'm sorry, the reason Leo went to magic school was to get the wizard's wand so he could scry for the wizard, because the wizard was the last known victim of the spider lady. Why don't you just scry for fucking Chris?
Well, he got the wand before Chris and Piper went to the lair.
Oh, yeah, I guess that makes sense.
But I don't know why he's still using the wand. In fact, he says that. He's like, wait, why don't I scry for my wife instead of the wizard? And it's like...
Yes, Leo. That would be the smarter
So
thing.
glad we have an elder here.
Speaking of, why is he the one scrying? Shouldn't one of the witches be scrying? I mean, I guess anyone can scry in this show.
They were gathering the potions and stuff. Oh, and...
Paige is getting help from her fairy tale friends.
Yeah. So, they go to where the spider's lair is, but they can't get in because it's covered in that same web stuff that the cocoon is made out of, so they can't get through it. And the ogre's like, I'll throw this styrofoam rock at it. Huh, nothing happened.
I'm just
glad we had that whole fairy tale plot to bring this guy, Paige.
Well, to get her attention, he's just knocking on the cave over and over again until she comes out.
Well, I guess he's the only person who's strong enough that knocking on the cave would, like, reverberate and get her attention. She comes out and she's like, can you leave me alone? It's the middle of dinner. You people are so rude, always calling it dinner time.
She's like, do you seriously think you can defeat me without your sister? And Paige is like, now! And the fairy, like...
flies into her face and distracts her.
And it stops nothing from happening. Like, the fairy flies in her face and she responds by just punching Paige and sending her flying.
And then the nymph throws the potion at her and it doesn't work, but she turns into a spider. And then the ogre just steps on it. Really? The ogre could have taken care of this all on his own.
You didn't need the potions at all.
Or any magic. Weirdly, the ogre defeated her in the same way that Jack defeats the giant in Jack and the Giant. She turns into a bug and he steps on her. I do have to point out, though, that they still haven't solved the problem of getting through the web. We just cut into her lair. I guess maybe Leo just orbed in there.
Yeah, Leo did just orb in there, and he orbs Piper out. And
not Chris, though. He's gonna have a heart-to-heart with Chris.
yeah, because Chris is still all super spider demon-y. So now Chris has Leo alone, and it's his spider lair now. And Chris is like, I'm gonna spin webs around you, and then I'm gonna bite you a whole bunch, cause I hate you, Dad. And Leo's like, this is why Wyatt's my favorite kid.
So outside of the lair, everybody's feeling helpless and hopeless because nobody can get through that. Paige could orb through it, but whatever. Anyway,
Yeah, you have someone else who can orb right here.
But then Piper, who has consistently understood how time travel works better than Chris, is like, oh wait, give me the antidote potion. I'll take it. And then my baby will be vaccinated against turning into a spider. And then Chris will never be a spider.
That does happen, but first we get a scene of Chris yelling at Leo, who he's webbed up. And Leo being a huge asshole for no reason. He's like, you really hate me, don't you? And Chris is like, yeah, I hate you. And he's like, what? Did I not give you enough daddy time? Did I like Wyatt more than you?
I think he was trying to provoke Chris. I think Leo is trying to make Chris angry enough that he becomes Chris and not the spider by, like, tapping into the anger that he realizes Chris had for him.
I guess, yeah. Like,
Or maybe he's just genuinely mad. Maybe Leo's just genuinely mad because he's like, why do you hate me so much? And Chris is like, you were never there for me, Dad. I hate you because you were never there.
which, I mean, duh. I do enjoy, Chris rips Leo out of the, webbing and starts just throwing him around the cave and punching him a whole bunch.
Remember how earlier we had the theory that Chris really is changing the timeline and changing his own future, and that's why his goal in being in the future changed from saving the charmed ones to saving Wyatt, because he did change the future, but
Yeah.
he doesn't remember that. Anyway, I think this pretty much confirms that, because
Remember, he initially came back to save the charmed ones from the Titans.
Right. And he did that by making Leo become an elder. And if he's mad that Leo was never there in his childhood because Leo was off being an elder, that confirms our theory that he did change the timeline.
Yeah.
Chris, you are the creator of your own tragedy and you don't even realize it. Do you see why it's so obvious that you should have been Phoebe's son?
So Piper does the thing that you said earlier. She just drinks the anti-spider potion, and since baby...
Okay, the me that loves time travel is like, okay, so that means that he never became a spider, which means he never assisted Piper, and none of the... But you know what? I'm gonna let it go.
The spider, yeah. Whatever. So, Chris de-spiders, and then immediately goes back to punching Leo in the face until the sisters come in the cave and they're like, Chris, okay, cut it out. Stop it. Stop it. You know, Chris runs off sobbing into the woods, and Leo's like, what's his problem?
So, wrapping up this episode, Piper and little baby Wyatt are going to go stay at magic school for the rest of her pregnancy so that nothing bad can happen to them, because nothing bad ever happens in magic school. And
nothing really bad.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice timely tie-in.
Yeah.
And of course, this is... I didn't mean this to be thematic, but it kind of is, right? In trying to avoid the future she knows is coming, she's running towards it full speed by bringing Wyatt to magic school.
Mm-hmm.
And Leo's like, you know what? I don't think I can be an elder anymore. I gotta stay here with my family and take care of them. So I guess we're done with all that other stuff. Also, Piper's like, I know that you can fix your relationship with Chris, but if he's I'm sorry, I can't get hung up on time travel stuff because it'll just hurt my head too much. But if he's deciding now to stay, out of White Lighter Land and actually be with his family, then Chris should just stop being mad because he won't have been gone for his childhood. Right?
So, Piper's walking Wyatt into, I guess, the room that they're going to be staying in, and Gideon gives the baby the stink eye.
It is hilarious because it becomes very clear in this moment that this man's nemesis is a toddler, and it's just...
I mean, it's not quite as good as all of those scenes of Chris being like, if I can't save you, I will stop you, to a literal goddamn baby. But it is definitely on that level, especially because the baby playing Wyatt, turns around to look at Gideon while Gideon's, giving him the death glare.
It's pretty hilarious.
Man, they should have paid the extras we cut from that to P3, and there's a band playing, and the extras look so not into this band. People are barely dancing, they're barely, nodding along. It's just a bunch of people standing really awkwardly.
I suspect that they didn't know what band they were going to have. So they were like, dance, but as little as you can, since we don't know what type of music we're going to put over you.
Yeah, you know what? I can definitely see that.
Because the shots of the band are just the band. There's no shot with the band and the crowd.
So Phoebe's off on another date.
Oh my god, Phoebe, just stop.
Because she's learned nothing, and Paige buys beers for the fairy and the troll and the leprechaun and the nymph. And I'm like, so are we not concerned about the masquerade at all?
Right, remember when the nymphs showed up and it was like a huge deal? It was front page news in San Francisco that some women were running around being weird.
Yeah, now you have like a literal ogre just getting shots in the middle of your club, and it's like, who cares?
I mean, really, the argument should be that nobody should have cared about the nymphs before, is the argument I would make. Because I will point out that the ogre is being played by an actual actor who is genuinely that tall.
Yeah, so, point.
This is a man who in life did presumably at one point go to a bar.
So, Chris has tried to get away from everything by orbing to the top of the Golden Gate Bridge.
Chris, that's where everyone goes to brood. This is like the worst brooding place ever.
So Leo comes up and he's like, you know what? Maybe you didn't just come back in time to save Wyatt. Maybe you came back in time to save our relationship, too.
I doubt it, says Chris. And then the episode ends.
Okay, well...
I kind of love that. I love that we just end on Chris's, like, solid teenage angst. Whatever, Dad!
This is a fun episode. I know we were ragging on it basically the whole time.
But I think it's clear that we were ragging out of love and not, like, one of the bad episodes that we hate.
Yeah, it was enjoyable. Chris turns into a spider demon, and he yells at Leo a whole bunch. The bit where he throws him around the cave is fun. It's not as fun as the scene where Leo throws Chris around the living room, but you know, it's still pretty fun. Yeah. This is a solid one. So, much like the Charmed ones, we have our own power of three. The first power in our pack is Premonition, who in this episode is, was, or will become famous.
So this is a big one.
Scott adds
it. Yes, Scott adds it as the nymph when she's
the curse form of the nymph.
Yes, Scott is credited as transformed male nymph.
Yes, you might remember him as being Pete from 30 Rock. So all of the 30 Rock references we've ever made on this podcast were retroactively justified. A person who was in 30 Rock was in this show too.
Yep.
Hornberger. That's all I got.
Oh, I mean, that was mine too, because there might have been others, you know, sometimes I'll look up and come up with, like, really obscure things, but it was Scott Adson. I wasn't going to bother looking anyone else up.
I think the Spider Lady was someone, they had her name, like, her name is referenced in the episode description. But who cares? She's some Spider Lady. Jamie Lynn O'Keefe.
Oh, okay, so Jamie Lynn O'Keefe she was on a soap opera, then she was on the TV show Nash Bridges, and then she was the mean girl villain in She's All That.
Oh, okay. Our daughter has gotten into this very bad America's Funniest Home Videos ripoff. And it's done by, like, it's hosted by various people. There are some no-name actors, but there are some also actors who are formerly kind of famous, or even very famous. Jack Osborne is one of the hosts, that guy who played Urkel.
Mm-hmm.
And a woman who very clearly knows the limit of her fame. I don't know the actress's name. She introduces herself and she's like, you might remember me from being your queer awakening as the bad guy in Cadet Kelly, the 2000s Hilary Duff movie about an art student who goes to military school. And it's like, wow, you were really, really aware of your fame.
I am looking at Jodie Lynn O'Keefe's page, and I have just learned that she's a licensed bounty hunter.
Oh my.
That's fun.
That is fun. I wonder if she uses her spider powers for that.
I would hope so.
Alright, that'll bring us to the second power in our pack, Time Freeze. What specifically dated this episode?
Honestly, we just went back and forth between the Manor and the
I feel like this might be in time for a Spider-Man thing. Just the way Chris does his webbing feels very Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, and I guess the scenes at the beginning with the leprechaun were definitely trying to imitate the far superior Lord of the Rings perspective thing. And I guess if I'm going to be a little pedantic about it, if this show was 10 years later, they'd have sent Phoebe on a speed date. Actually, no, they would just...
Earlier?
No.
Later? Speed dating was a later thing?
But you know what? Now that I think about it, right around this time, Gilmore Girls did a speed dating thing. So, no, that's just a choice they didn't make. So, nope, never mind. In the Gilmore Girls speed dating thing, that's when Paris starts dating Danny Strong.
Ah. A.K.A. Jonathan from Buffy.
Yep.
And that will bring us to the final power in our pack. Telekinesis. What, if anything, genuinely moved you? I'm gonna say nothing. I enjoyed a lot of this episode, but nothing, emotionally affected me.
Yeah, I'm with you there. It's funny, distant father can't relate to his kids does not hit the same emotional strings with me as some other father-kid stuff might.
Also, I'm glad Leo's making the choice to stay, but, you could have done this at any time.
Mm-hmm.
Why is I'd abandon one son, but not two is not exactly the emotional...
If anything, it just shows that there were never any stakes to the whole Leo becomes an elder thing.
Spoiler alert, he stays an elder for a while after this. And he pulls some pretty, I'm going to say wacky shit is how I'm going to choose to classify what Leo ends up doing.
Alright. That's a interesting way to put it. So next time we're going to be talking about the episode Crimes and Witch Demeanors.
Oh, this is the one where Phoebe loses her powers, right?
Maybe. The plot description is Daryl is framed as a murderer and sent to death row by the cleaners.
God, the cleaners.
Yeah.
I think this is their second and last appearance. You're a bad concept for the show.
Alright, I think that'll do it.
Yeah, I think that'll do it.
Our show is partially listener-supported. If you want to be one of the supporters, you should head over to our website, www.welcometotelevision.net, and click on our Patreon link. We'd like to thank our current $5 and above patrons, Beryl, Patricia, Rosa, Ryan, Maricruz, Benjamin, Kate, Jen, Dan, Anthony, Danielle, and Hippolyta.
If you'd like to support the show in other ways, you could always rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It helps other people find the show.
If you want to talk about this episode, or any episode of any television show, you can email us at ilovetelevisionzines@gmail.com, or you can find us on Blue Sky at Welcome to Television.
So until next time, I'm Max.
And I'm Tina.
And this has been Welcome to the Halliwell Manor.